There are secular villages that have raised themselves to value human life. They've been completely cut off from all civilization, and they've had no need for a god, and they're not killing each other.
That's
they
correct.
live in social harmony.
And all of my atheist friends live very altruistic lives. But you see, you missed my point. My point is not that an atheist murders people. That's not my point.
Your point is that the atheist that has no morality because it doesn't have your Christ has no problem with murdering people because they have no establishment for their morality.
Pretty close, but not quite.
So why aren't I killing everyone?
Because you have a conscience, and your conscience informs you that murdering people is absolutely wrong, but you've got a real intellectual problem, because if in your head you say morality is relative and there is no God, so the individual defines morality, but it's absolutely wrong, it's objectively wrong to murder people, you've got intellectual hypocrisy.
Society defines morality.
Fine. Which society? Nazi? South African? Dred Scott decision? America at the time of the Dred Scott decision? You still have cultural relativism, sir, if you say that society defines right and wrong.
The greater... All right, fine. Yeah, just keep on going with this. Can I ask some other questions since you're...
Sure.
All right. Can you explain the rising of separate religions in different parts of the world, all completely unrelated, not feeding off each other in any way? And can you also explain the characteristics of Jesus Christ that were conveniently borrowed from religions that established it thousands of years before that myth even existed?
Well, anthropology shows us that every culture around the world has some type of religion.
Yes, and that is to explain things that they can't explain because of their lack of knowledge.
Really?
Yes.
Why don't you explain to me what is the basis of your worth as a human being? What is the purpose of your life? How do you make ethical decisions? And do you think there's life after death or not? I'm listening.
Okay. No, I do not think there's life after death. The reason for living is to procreate just like any other mammal.
Uh-huh.
I live my life ethically because of the societal structure around me. There is technically no basis of human worth. We define our own human worth through our society.
Good. So if I define this man as being inferior to me because he's of a different ethnic heritage, what do you have to say to me?
I would say that on a genetic basis, he is worth no more or less than you.
But what if my culture says that because of my ethnic heritage, I am more valuable than he is? What do you say to me?
I would say that your ethnic heritage is probably bigoted.
Bigoted? Where on earth do you, as a moral relativist, get off calling my culture bigoted?
Because you are making an assertion based purely on a belief that has no evidence in order to persecute someone else.
Sir, based on what you say and your worldview, all morality is relative, culturally relative. You've said it flat out. So if my culture tells me that I am more valuable than him because of my ethnic heritage, where do you get off judging my culture?
Your culture is wrong because it demeans another culture with no evidence to back that belief.
Sir, if my culture teaches me something...
My God with no evidence tells me that these people are inferior, so they're inferior, because you're basing that off of something with no evidence.
You better work harder because you're cutting the ground out from underneath your feet real fast, sir. If what you say at the beginning is true, that morality is relative, culturally relative, then what is the basis of you telling me that my culture, which tells me that I am superior to this man, is wrong? If culture is the basis of defining right and wrong, where do you get off telling me that my culture's wrong and that your culture's right? Aren't you an elitist American?
Societal norms that have been crafted through years and years and years of human progress.
Oh, great. Years and years of human progress. Why don't you face the fact that in this country, there are far more murders today than there were 75 years ago?
There's also far more people.
Far more murders. So if there's all this progress in our special culture, why are there so many more murders in America today than there were 75 years ago?
The world grew by like 1 billion.
We're not talking about the world. We're talking about the United States.
Which isn't a continent. we're a huge part of the North American continent. We grew by millions.
Sir, if you believe that morality is relative, live it out. Come on, live it out. And don't give me this hogwash that if I have a racist attitude towards him, that I'm absolutely wrong. No, you believe morality is relative. So if I want to have a racist attitude towards this gentleman, live and let live.
To back it up.
Live. And my culture taught me to be racist. And you just said the basis of morality is culture. So live it out. If that's what you believe, live it out. The same way that you know if I say I believe in Jesus Christ, and I go up to this man and say I hate your guts, I'm a hypocrite. If I say I believe in Jesus and I hate you, that's hypocrisy. In the same way, if you tell me that morality is culturally relative, and then you tell me that my culture, which teaches me that she's inferior to me because she's a woman and I'm a man, that I'm wrong, you're an intellectual hypocrite. It's that simple. You're contradicting yourself. Does that make any sense to you?
I think what you're doing is you're taking my argument, which is that the base structure of morality has been determined by cultures over thousands and thousands of years, and you are turning it into a justification for your insane fringe beliefs.
I'm willing to face the logical consequences of my belief in Jesus Christ. The logical consequences to my belief in Jesus Christ is that if this guy tries to cut me off at the knees, I am to forgive him and to love him. And if I hate him, I'm a hypocrite. But you, sir, are not willing to live out the consequences of your belief, which is it's all culturally relative, which means if I say that my culture teaches me that black people or Hispanic people are inferior to white people, that that's good, you're not willing to say, yeah, that's good, Cliff, because it's all culturally determined. So you've got a major contradiction going on between your head, your intellect, and the way you live your life. And that's scary if you claim to be a thinking person.
Right.
Just read Nietzsche, Camus, Sartre. They pointed out beautifully. If there is no God, morality is not objective. Morality is defined either by the individual or culture or the power elite, which means it's all relative, depending upon which culture you're in, which individual you're talking to, or whether you're talking to Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin or Winston Churchill or Teddy Roosevelt.
Culture isn't just defined by a single isolated culture.
All right, how do you define it?
If you're able to isolate, you're able to have these fringe beliefs. It's the same with the far-right Christianity, it's the same with Hitler, it's the same with the personality cult in North Korea. When you can eschew the opinions of the greater world, you can take any belief that you want, regardless of how insane and bigoted it is. When you have to deal with thousands of years of history, the many, many successful city-states, countries, continents in the past, all taking what they have learned and putting it forward in a progressive way, you start losing the ability to persecute people for your fringe beliefs because other people can use the societal norms before them and their ability to think to realize that perhaps equality is a good thing. All right? And that doesn't mean that morality is absolute.
All right. I'll give you one more illustration to try and make my point, and if I can't make my point with you, then we're going to have to go on, okay? Because 1945 to 1949, the Nuremberg trials. 24 Nazi officers were being tried at one point. Their lawyer was brilliant. Their lawyer stood up, looked the panel of judges in the face and said, these Nazi officers that I'm defending grew up in Germany. They were simply carrying out orders when they gassed the Jews. Where do you allies get off? Thinking that you can come from the United States, from England, and judge these Nazis from your different cultural perspective. Sir, the Nuremberg trials shut down until Robert Jackson, the American consul, stood up and said, there is a law above the law of a country. And according to that law, which is above the law of a country, gassing Jews is wrong. The Nuremberg trials kicked back into gear, and justice was wreaked on those 24 Nazi soldiers, officers.
Just because the law is greater than their individual law within Germany doesn't mean that it's God's law. It's just a greater set, a superior set of laws also set by man.
But if it's set by man, then it is relative, depending upon which man you're talking to.
Okay.
Which means there is no real law above the Nazi law, because Nazis were men who defined their law a certain way, and their law included gassing Jews in Dachau and Auschwitz.
Well, maybe you should realize, this is probably a negative viewpoint for you, that in the end, a majority does in fact make the societal structure. It does follow the societal structure.
Bravo.
Okay.
Good.
But that isn't absolute. The majority can shift, and it has many times.
That's right. Because all you got to do is ask yourself, and what would be true if the Nazis had won World War II? Does that mean they're right? Just because the majority wins?
No, but that's where individual thinking, and you didn't listen if you didn't hear the part of what I said. It's a combination of societal norms and the ability to introspect, to think for yourself.
Yes?
You lack that because you're subservient to your religion.
Absolutely not. I think very clearly through ethics.
Yeah,
and I think clearly enough to realize that if there is no God, there is no moral lawgiver. If there is no God, we create morality, and the white South African creates his morality, and I'm not right and he's not wrong. If I think I'm right and the white South African is wrong, I'm an arrogant twit. If morality is relative, I am not right and the KKK is not wrong. Because if morality is relative, the KKK defines right and wrong for himself or herself, and I define right and wrong for myself. Because according to what you say is real and true, morality is relative.
I think what you've done is manage to take this conversation to a different field.
No, I've been banging away on the same point now for over 5 minutes.
Well,
and you know it, if you
essentially,
think.
you're asserting that you have a moral absolute based on zero evidence. And that's
No, I'm
basically
not.
what you're going on.
No, I'm not. I haven't even gotten there.
You cannot prove your Christ exists.
Wait,
and if
fine,
your
that's a
God does
different
not
question.
exist and your Christ does not exist, and the people that wrote that book were all men subject to the weakness of men, the will of men, the corruption of men, then maybe your entire book is corrupt.
Good.
Which means that your entire belief system is corrupt, which means you are living in your own moral ambiguity every day through the reflections of your dogma.
I love you, buddy. It got real hot in the kitchen, so you hopped right out of the kitchen and you transferred the discussion from moral relativism versus objective morality. Fine, we can go there, but I can promise you, sir, that's not what we were discussing. We were talking about objective morality versus relative morality. Now, if you want to go on to evidence for existence of God, we can do that.
One doesn't matter without the other, because if you cannot prove that your God exists, that means you cannot prove that there is an absolute morality. And if there is no absolute morality, the whole point of that first argument is completely moot, because we don't have a choice in the matter. It just goes the way it goes.
Then let me tell you why I believe God exists. First, I believe God exists because order and design point to a designer. A wristwatch points to a watchmaker.
Really?
Why do I believe you have a brain? Have I ever seen your brain? Smelled your brain? Touched your brain?
You
No.
can see my brain through a CT scan.
I can't see I've not seen your brain today. Why am I convinced that between your two handsome ears there's a brain? Because of the way you articulate. Because of the way you've dressed yourself in an orderly fashion.
That's interesting. You're using evidence for this argument.
That's very good. That's
Right.
exactly right. Evidence.
I mean, it's evidence-based nowhere in fact, but you're trying to use evidence to try to turn this into a logical argument on your side, when in the end, you cannot justify an all-powerful being.
Sir,
It's just that easy.
you asked me a very thoughtful question, and that question is, why do you believe God exists? I'm answering your question. I believe God exists, not because I can prove God. I can't prove God. Just the same way you can't prove to me your mom is not going to drop arsenic in your tea when you go home for Thanksgiving or Christmas. But the evidence, as you pointed out, is my mom doesn't drop poison in my food. That's why I don't bring my chemistry kit to the breakfast table. Evidence. Similarly, the evidence is that God exists. The first piece of evidence is order and design. Points to a designer. Second piece of evidence. The Big Bang shows us that the universe is not eternal. There is a beginning. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause.
So then God was created because everything has to have a beginning.
I didn't say everything has a beginning.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I said everything that, let me say it again then for you. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. Everything that has a beginning
So
has
God
a cause.
characteristics, right?
Pardon?
God has characteristics. He's all powerful, all knowing. So if he has characteristics, then he must have had a designer. Who created God?
Nobody. God is eternal.
Right, but he has characteristics, so he needed to be created.
No, he did not
That
need
is
to be
your-
created.
That is your argument.
No, it is not.
Actually.
My argument was, you gotta start listening better. You're smarter than that. Now, come on.
Too.
Everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, Therefore, the universe has a cause. That's all I'm saying. So please, let's not twist it.
You were making the watchmaker argument.
Yeah, that was design.
Design.
All
All right?
Right.
You're saying that if something has characteristics, that it has to have a creator.
That's not what I said. I said the evidence of a watch is that there's a watchmaker, a mind behind it. This watch is not eternal. This watch has a beginning, and the order and design that exist in this watch point me to a watchmaker.
So we can take the Bible's teachings and God's teachings and just omit the word God and just use it as a teaching of a little ethics teaching.
Yeah.
Why does that have to be, why do we have to define it over someone's teaching? Why can't it just be a universal teaching?
Because when it comes to right and wrong, you have to ground right and wrong in reality. And if in reality there is no God, then in reality there's no objective right and wrong. We just create right and wrong as human beings. Maybe to live together, maybe because it helps our evolutionary cycle, right?
Yeah.